Hi, and welcome to BremSter Puzzles, a channel dedicated to bringing you the best I can in variant Sudoku to showcase the wonderful logic that can be found in these puzzles. Today, I'm going to be showcasing a couple of variant constraints. One of them is quite unknown. It's a very rare constraint called Dutch flatmates or Dutch flats. Actually, it's called Dutch flats. There was another puzzle called Dutch flatmates, and this one is part of that, I think. And the other one is a 10 or 11 line, which is something I've never seen before. So a very rare constraint and a completely new constraint to me, at least. And I'm going to be doing that with a puzzle called Dutch Flatmates 10 or 11 by Marty Sears. And I'm kind of looking forward to this one because, first of all, what a colourful grid. But the lines are, they're all the same thing. But I just love the colour in this grid. I think it's absolutely pretty. Now, I struggle with colouring sometimes, so we're going to see how this goes. I don't know if this is going to be a colouring puzzle or not. I haven't even looked at the rules apart from to stick them in above and the formatting. So this should be fun. If you're interested in other variants or more standard variants of Sudoku, then look at the history of the channel. There's links below to literally every puzzle or almost every puzzle that's been done. And I create playlists. So there's a 2024 playlist, there's a 2025 playlist, there's a solve videos playlist, and there's playlists for all of the packs that have been done. So if you go to the playlist section of my channel, you'll be able to sort of narrow down on particular constraints or particular puzzle packs, and figure out what you want. You might be able to find something fun there. Below, there'll also be a link to this puzzle where you can solve it, but in order to solve it, we should go through the rules. So let's have a look at the rules for Dutch Flatmates 10 or 11 by Marty Sears. I feel like I'm sort of losing the plot with how I'm saying all of this, so let's just get onto them. So normal Sudoku rules apply. So in every box, in every row, and in every column, the digits 1 to 9 must be placed without repetition. No given digits in this puzzle, quite common for variant Sudoku. We've got a lot to figure out. 5s live in Dutch flats, which is the Dutch flats rule. So every 5 in the grid must have either a 1 directly above it, a 9 directly below it. It may have both, but it doesn't need both. So for example, if this was a 5, then it must have either a 1 above it or a 9 below it. That's the rule. It may have a 1 above it and a 9 below it, but it must have at least one of those. That's really cool. Then 10 or 11. Adjacent cells along a coloured line must sum to 10 or 11. Adjacent cells along a color. Okay, so these two cells will sum to either 10 or 11. These two cells will sum to either 10 or 11. Those two cells will sum to 10 or 11. Those two cells will sum to 10 or 11. Those two cells will sum to 10 or 11. Wow, okay. That's weird. I'm going to restart the puzzle to restart my timer. Let's give this a shot. This line, it takes up the entire box. That's got to be important because we know that the entire box sums to 45 because it contains all of the digits from 1 to 9. And if you add the digits from 1 to 9, you get 45. But each of these dominoes sums to either 10 or 11. Can I use that? Well, if this domino sums to 10, this domino would have to sum to 11 because let's say this is a 3 and I make this a 7. I can't make this domino sum to 10 because I would need another 7 and I can't repeat a 7 in the box. So if this domino sums to 10, this one had to have to sum to 11 and then this one would have to sum to 10. They'd have to keep alternating their sums because this would have to contribute. This contributes to both of the sums and therefore they are different sums. The same is true here. This digit sums to the sum here and the sum here. So these have to So this domino and this domino have different sums, otherwise they're the same digit. The same is true for all of these. So each of these, so it's 5s. I can't put a 5 in any of those cells. Because if I do, let's say I put a 5 right, let's do the most common thing and put a 5 in the center of the grid. This is now broken because I can't make this a 10 sum, so I have to make it an 11 sum, and that becomes a 6. Now what can I make that? I can't make it a 10 sum because it would need to be a 5, and I can't make it an 11 sum because the 6 isn't available. So I can't put a 5 there, but the same would be true if I did it anywhere that wasn't the end of a line. If I put a 5 here, if this can't be a 10 sum, so it'd have to be an 11 sum, and now this can't be a 10 or an 11 sum. It doesn't work. 5 has to be at the end of the line, and that has to jump. It can't jump to a 10 sum, so it has to jump to an 11 sum, putting a 6 in the next spot. But the 6 then can't make an 11 sum because the 6 to an 11 sum would need, hang on, and this is Dutch flats, but we'll get to that in a minute. The 6 can't make an 11 sum as it continues because if the 6 made an 11 sum as it continues, it'd need a 5, so it makes a 10, so it jumps to a 4. And the 4 can't make a 10 sum. It would have to make an 11 sum because if it needed an 11, I'd need another 6. So an 11 sum makes it a 7. And the 7 can't make an 11 sum. It needs to make a 10 sum and must jump to 3. The 3 can't make a 10 sum. It has to make, because I've already got the 11, it needs to make an 11 sum, so this becomes 7, 8. The 8 that I've just added can't make an 11 sum, so these become 2 and 4. The 2 that I just added can't make a 10 sum because I just went 8, 2, so it needs to make an 11 sum. These are 6, 9, and the 9 that I just added can't make an 11 sum. It has to make a 10 sum, and these are 1, 5. And this 5, if this is 5, it can't have a 9 below it. It'd need to have a 1 above it. And if this is 5, so either this is a 1 or this is a 9, but I'm not sure which. But this is completely forced. And there's a 3 in the center. That's really cool. So if this is a 5, this is a 9. If this is a 5, this is a 1. If this is a 5, this is a 9. How, And I'm going to mark this up. If this was a 5, this was a 6, which meant that this had to go to 10. So this would be 4. 4 would have to go to an 11, making 7, which makes this 8, which makes this 2, which makes this 9, which makes this 1. Now, these digits in the corners may be reversed, but it's going to go in one direction, 1, 9, 2, 4, 1, 9, 2, 8, 7, 4, 6, 5, or the digit way that it's marked here. So it has to go 5, 6, 4, 7 in one direction, 5, 6, 4, 7, or 1928 or 1928. So if this is a 1, it goes 92. But if this is a 5, this is a 1. If this is a 5, this is a 6. How do I get out of that central box? There's got to be a way of doing it. Well, I can never put 5. Oh, no, I can put 5 on a line if it's 5, 6. This can never be a 5, and that can never be a 5, but that's not a huge deal. And that can never be a 5. This box was really restricted, but I can't see how to grow it. These are 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, and 9. I'm actually going to pencil mark that. 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 9. How do I do 10 or 11 here? Lots of different ways. Actually, lots of different ways. That's not where I should be looking. So if this is a 1, what does that do? This couldn't sum to an 11. This would have to be a 9. And that, oh, it can't be. This can't be the 1. If this is the 5, I can't put a 9 below it, so I'd have to put a 1 above it, which means this would have to be a 10 sum, because I can't go 1, 10 to make this an 11 sum, but there's a 6, 9 pair. This can't be the 5. That's the 5, meaning that's the 9. 5 means this is the 1. 1 and it went 5. So it goes 5, 6, 4, 7, 8, 2, 9, 1. And then 5 must have the 9 below it. So this is 1 or 2 to get a 10 or an 11 sum. This is a 1 or a 2 to get a 10 or 11 sum. If this is a 1, this has to be a 9. If this is a 2, it's either 9 or 8, and it can't be 8. This must be a 9. A 9 can only go next to 1 or 2 because this has to sum to 10 or 11. This is so cool. The 5 in this box, now it could be up here with a 1 above it. So that gave me that 5, which has a 9 below it. Is it now the 5 in this column? If this was a 1, that would have to be, one of those two would have to be a 5. That was very cool. I like the way this is placed. With if that being a 5, that would have to be a 1, and then that would have to be a 9. Very cool. So 9 is down here. Okay, 4 is in one of these. But because I can see 4 is not in any of those. 4 on this would have to go with 6 or 7. But it could go with 6 or 7. Exploring logic for the first time on camera is always tricky. Where does 5 go? Up here. Where does... Actually, it might be more interesting to ask, where does 5 go down here? 5 here would need 6 here. That could work. 5 here would need 6 here. 5 here doesn't work. 5 here would need 6 in both of those. 5 here would just be fine. So 5 is in one of those 4. That's not that helpful, is it? I was hoping it would be. These pencil marks are absolutely terrible. There's something I'm not getting. How does this sum to 10 or 11 now? There must be a 6 on it, mustn't there? Because to sum to 10, you must have a low digit and a high digit. And the only high digit available now is 6. To sum to 11, I'm using 9, 2, 8, 3, 7, 4, or 5, 6. There must be a 6 on this line. So this is either 5, 6 for 11 or 4, 6. So this is either 4, 6 or 5, 6. But this can't be a 5 because then one of these would have to be a 10 sum. I'd have to make them both 5, 6, and that doesn't work. If that was a 5, that would also have to be a 6. That's not a 5. So if this, so I can figure something out here, I think, because 5, 6 would need that to be a 4. 6, 4 would need that to be a 7. 4, 6 would need that to be a 5. And if that's a 5, that's a 1. If that's a 5, either that's a 9 or that's a... Oh, hang on. If that's a 5, that's a 9. Because I can't put 1 or 9 in here. If that's a 5, that's a 9, but that seems to work. But can I continue along this line? It's a bit of chaining going on here, isn't it? Because if this is 4, this couldn't be 7, so it'd be 6. If this is 5, this would have to be 6. 7 would make this 3 or 4. So this is only 3 or 6 because I can't put 4 on it. 6 here, or 3 here, this could be 7 or 8. And 6 would need 5 or 4. That is absolutely terrible. So where is that digit in this row? It has to be there. That's a 1 or a 2 because I can't put that digit in any of those 3 cells, any of those, or on that line. That's the 1 or a 2. So this is 4, 5, 6. I don't know that that's helping me though. That digit is down here. This opening was really cool, but I think this is 5, this is 9. There's something about this. If this is 5, this is 1. The 5 here, this can't be a 5. If this is a 5, I'd need to put a 1 above it or a 9 below it. I don't have a 9 or a 1 available. This isn't the 5. This is actually the 5, making that the 6. This now can't sum to 11. It has to sum to 10. 4 and 3 doesn't work. This is the 6. And now this has to sum to 10 or 11. The 6 makes that the 4. I feel like I'm pulling this apart in stages. Now that can't be a 1, so that has to be a 9. This can't be 1, 2, it could be 3. It can't be 4, 5, or 6, 7, or 8. This is 3, 7, or 8. If this is a 3, to get to 10, that's a 7. To get to 11, it's an 8. If it's a 7, to get to 10, it's a 3. To get to 11, it's a 4. And if it's 8, it's either 2 or 3. That's really bad. 1, 2, 9, 1, 2, 9, 5, 4. So 5 and 6 are both up here. That could be a 5 if that's a 1. That could be a 5 if that's a 1. 9 is in one of these two by Sudoku. If that's a 9, that's a 1 or a 2. If that's a 9, that's a 1 or a 2. So one of those is a 1 or a 2. Yeah, okay. Still not getting it, am I? Okay. Is it these? That digit, could be that. These are 1, 3, 4, or 6s down here. Because of 6 and 6. 6 is down here. If this is 6, this is 4 or 5. If this is 6, this is 4 or 5. That could be 5 if that's 1. Five in this column must have 9 below it because I can't use the 1. So if this was a 9, this can't be the 9. Where's 9 in this column? Because 5 must have 9 below it because it can't have 1 above it. So if this was the 9, where would I put the 5? I couldn't put the 5 here. It would have 9 above it and 6 below it. I couldn't put the 5 here because there'd be no 1 or 9. So this can't be the 9. This is the 9. And this there, where are the 5 now? It must have the 9 below it. That's the 5. Now, these could both be 5. In fact, these must both be 5 because this sums to either 10 or 11, and it can't sum to 11 because there's no 6 available. That's the 5, which means either that's a 1 or that's a 9. But this 9 must sum to 10 or 11, so that's a 1, 2, giving me a 1, 2 pair in the column. Holy cow. But this 5 makes this a 4. If this was a 1 now, this would be the only place for 5 in the column. And it can't be because 5 is down here. 5 here would need a 1 above it. 5 here would need a 1 above it. And 5, this can't be 1 or 5 can't have 9 above it or 1 above it because of the 1, 2. This is the 5. This is the 1. Using the Dutch flats correctly, which makes this the 2. This is actually a known pair. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. This is really, really nice. This 5 can only go next to a 6. This isn't this. I am actually, my flabber has been completely gasted. 7 or 8. So 7 to get to 10 would go next to 3. To get to 11 would need a 4, which I can't. 8 to get to 10 would need a 2. This must be a 3. Because 8 can't get the 2 to go to 10 and 7 can't get 4 to go to 11. So it must be 3. These now are 1, 7, and 8. 3 can't go next to 1, but it can go next to 7 or 8. This is the 1. So this is 7 or 8 to complete the... No, wait. No, this was correct, but the 8 is looking up, making that the 7 and that the 8. And this is now a known digit. That's a 4. And a 4 can only go next to 6 or 7, and it can't be going next to a 6. That's a 7. The 8 is looking down, making that the 7. This is a triple of digits, 2, 3, and 8, which means 8 must be on here with either the 2 or the 3. I don't know which one, except these have to sum to 10 or 11. 7, 8 is not correct, and 7, 2 is only 9. That's the 3, that's the 8, that's the 2. 8 to get to 10 or 11 must go next to a 2 or a 3, and the 2 makes that the 3. 3 to get to 10 or 11 must go next to 7 or 8. 7 or 8. So 7 goes next to either 3 or 4. 8 goes next to either 2 or 3. So this is 2, 3, or 4. And it can't be 3. So this is only 2 or 4. 7 goes next to only 3 or 4. I think I need to continue along this line. I know 7 is in one of those 2 by Sudoku. My flabber has been totally gasted. This is beautiful. 3 would go next to 7 or 8. 4 would go next to 6 or 7. And it can't be 6. So this is another 7, 8. 7 goes next to 3 or 4. 8 goes next to 2 or 3. This can't be 2. So this is a 3, 4 pair. Which means, hang on, that does lock this in, doesn't it? Actually, I should look at it this way. Because this is a 3, 4 pair, if this was an 8, it would be next to 3 and 4, and 8 and 4 is 12. That must be a 7. There's no 7 there. I'm not sure if I need to look at this, but this must be a 7. Which puts 7 up here somewhere. Dutch flats, where am I putting 5s? Don't know. This 5 must have either a 1 above it or a 9 below it. Both still seem possible. 5 in this box is in one of those 3. Now, this 5 could have a 1 above it. This 5 couldn't have a 1 above it. It could have a 9 below it. This 5 would need a 1 above it. All of that looks fine, doesn't it? Actually, this can't be a 5. That, or both of those look okay. This 5 has a 9 below it. Actually, let's mark off the 5s that are actually completed. This 5 is not completed. Oh, this is just a 5 by Sudoku. So this isn't a 5. this 5 can't have a 1 above it or a 9 below it. That's not a 5. That's the 5, and it has a 9 below it. It is done. This 5 needs a 1 above it, which it could have, but it can't have a 9 below it. There's a 9 in the row. That's a 1. And this 5 is now done. So there's 5 in one of these two. Now this 5 couldn't have a 1 above it, but it could have a 9 below it, or this 5 could have a 1 above it. There is a 1 in one of these 3. This is so neat. I love this puzzle. These digits, they can't be 1, 2, they could be 3, they can't be 4, 5, 6, they can be 7 or 8. So these are only 3, 7 or 8, and that can't be 7 because there's a 7 looking down. So 3 would only go with 7 or 8, and 8 can only go with 2 or 3, and it can't be 2 or 3. That's the 3. So it goes with 7 or 8, giving me a 7, 8 pair in the column. Wow. Unexpected pair. This 4 makes this the 3, which makes this the 4. This can't be a 3 or a 4 anymore. This is a triple. 2, 8, and 9. So if this is a 2, that has to be an 8 because it can't be a 9. And if this is an 8, this would have to be a 2, which it can't be, or a 3. Okay. 5 is still in one of those two, but I think that could still be 1. So make that 2, that 8, that 3. This 7 is in one of those two. This is 6 or 8 only. Oh, the 7 makes that the 8, which makes that the 7. This is not the 7. This is a 6, 8 pair. So that makes this the 3, which makes this the 8, and there's no 8 in those. This is a 2. Oh, and the 9 is looking at making that the 2 and that the 9. This 5 now has a 9. So all top 5 9s are done. This 5 is also done. So I just need to complete the Dutch flats for whichever these 5s are done. If that's a 5, that has to be a 9. This would be a 5, and that would have to be a 1. If this is a 5, that would have to be a 1. That would have to be a 5, and that would have to be a 1. And that doesn't work. If this is a 5, no, if this is a 5, that's a 1. Then this would be a 5 and that would be a 9. That's fine. If this is a 5, that would have to be a 9. Then this would be a 5 and this would have to be a 1. Yes, I couldn't make this a 5 with that being a 1. Because if this is a 5 and that's a 1, then this is a 5, which would mean that would have to be a 1 and both of those are 2. So if this is a 5, this is a 9. If this is a 5, this is a 9. So is this a 1-9 pair? If this is a 5, that can't be a 1, so that has to be a 9. If this is a 5, that has to be a 1. So that has to be one of those. If this is a 5, that's a 9. If that's a 5, so yeah, these are a 1-9 pair. I think that's correct. If this is a 5, that can't be a 1, because that would be a 2, that would be a 1. And this being a 5 would make that a 5, and I couldn't put a 9 below it. I'd put a 1 here, and I can't put a 1 here, and it's broken. So if this is a 5, that's a 9. If this is a 5, that's a 1. If this is a 5, that's a 9. If this is a 5, yeah, this is a 1-9 pair. Which means 1, I've got an X-wing on 1s here. So 1 is in one of those two. Let's put this triple in. 3, 6, 8. Well, there's no 8 in those, so let's just use that. This is a 6. This is an 8. These are 2, 6, 9. There's no 6 there. There's no 9 there. So these are 1, 4, 7. There's no 4 there. There's no 1 there because of the X-wing. Yeah, I don't know. The 3 is making that the 6 and that the 3. Something in here that I've missed? Yeah, the 2 looking down, making that the 4, which means that can't be the 8. That's the 7. That means that's not the 7. The 4 is looking up, making that the 1, that the 7, that the 4. So I have used the X-wing I found. This column is missing its 8. And the 8 not being in any of those makes that the 8. That's not the 9 because I've had that 9 there. These are 1, 2, and 7, which means that's the 7 to complete the column. And this is a 1, 2. Which means this is the 9 because this had to be the 1, 2. That can't be the 1 because there's the X-wing on 1s. Because if this was a 1, this would have to be the 5. Hang on. I did have an X-wing on 1s in those. This has to be the 2. Because if that's a 1, that's the 5. That's the 5, that's the 1, and both of those are 2. That's the 2, that's the 1. The 5 needs a 9 below it. This is the 2, this is the 1. The 2 looks up saying that's not the 2. This is a 1. The 5 needs a 1. This can't be a 5 because it wouldn't have a 1 above it or a 9 below it. That's the 5. Or I could have just used Sudoku. So this is 6 or 9, and it can't be 9. That's 6. That's 9, which means that's 2, and that's 6. These, well, this 5 is now completed. And this 5 is completed. I've done all the 5s. These are 1, 2, and 6. So this is the 6 to complete the column. The 1 looks across, making that the 2 and that the 1. I've never solved a puzzle like this before. You saw me discover this on camera, probably badly, and I'm sure there'll be people upset that I took so long. 1, 2, 3, 4 goes in there. So these are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Whoa. No, 2 and 9 go in. The 9 looks down, making that the 2 and that the 9. And that's the correct solution, 2849. Now, again, I don't know if that was a quick time or not, but when I'm doing this on camera, I literally need to discover the logic and then figure out how to explain the logic I just discovered in a way that makes sense. That's an extra thought process. It really is. But that was beautiful. I want more of these. This is a great puzzle. 2849. I'm really happy with that as a solve time on that puzzle. Again, I'm sure there'll be a lot of people who do a much faster solve. I challenge many of them to try and record something like this of the puzzle and see how it goes and see how long it takes them to do that. I really do. Wow, that was really cool, particularly not knowing the logic of the puzzle at all. That was fun. Thank you everyone for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this one. And as always, good luck with your solving.